Hi everyone, nice to have you all back here for the Meet Your Future podcast. Today we are going to be talking about the digital and creative sector, and you've got myself, Sophie, Enterprise Coordinator for Manchester and Salford. We've got Emma with us. Emma, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I look after GMAX, which is the Greater Manchester Apprenticeship and Careers Service.
And we've also got Rav as well. Rav, can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, sure. My name is Rav Gellan. I'm the Development and Operations Manager for Digital Advantage. We are an experiential provider of training and digital skills for young people.
Perfect. So, Rav, I'm going to ask you a few questions now, if that's okay. This is specifically aimed for careers leaders and careers advisors in terms of what's happening currently within your sector that you're working in. So, in terms of the last few months and what's happening with COVID, what is the overall feeling of the business community within the digital sector over the last few months?
It's a bit of an interesting one, the digital sector. It's made of sort of huge companies, such as, BBC, ITV, Accenture in consulting, that kind of thing. But then overwhelmingly by sort of SMEs, and actually probably even more so by micro businesses. The fast pace of change that micro businesses and SMEs to a degree are able to work with. So let me start that again. The fast pace of change in digital technology that everyone works in means there's quite an agile workforce, and we're able to fairly rapidly adapt to the changing situations at the best of times. So that's a real positive thing, and it's been a real positive feeling. I think there's been lots of innovation, and I think people have been able to sort of try and grasp the opportunities that are there. That said, the sector has also taken a hit, because you've got lots of marketing agencies, digital companies, who, whilst they're agile, a lot of their clients come from industries that are harder hit. So the most sort of common and topical one being hospitality right now. So there is a similar sense of frustration and shared challenge being faced by the sector there in terms of a hit to revenue and what we're able to achieve.
That's great, thank you very much. And then since the COVID pandemic, have you witnessed anything? So you did say that, there's been a lot of innovation and stuff. Have you got any examples of success stories?
Is it okay to talk about us? Is it okay to talk about ourselves? Okay, I'm really pleased. We have a massive schools program, and a lot of our training was face to face. And it is a key element that we're retaining. And over that time, we have been able, over the time of lockdown, we have completely flipped our model, and we've created a series of resources, all based on the same content that we would deliver and ensuring we deliver creative and digital skills to young people. But we've created an online version, which can be delivered in multiple ways. It can be completely online, or it can be with an employer trainer still attached to a school, providing regular feedback, or indeed the online training can be facilitated on site within a school or a college. So what I think has been a success for us, and we've been able to sort of continue our work, albeit again there's been a bit of a hit, is to be able to respond to this situation and to still meet the needs of young people in terms of training them in creative and digital. The way we've designed it is so that if a program's up and running, and previously it was all face-to-face, so if we had a local lockdown, that was it would go. Whereas now that it's online, we can shift the model quite seamlessly. All the students would be up and running, the schools would be up and running with it. And so hopefully we'd be able to continue that training and continue pushing out the skills to young people. We've also opened an agency at the same time for young people with special educational needs and disabilities. So they are supported interns, and so obviously people in the SEND sector will be aware of those. It's an intermediate labour market for young people to try and get into work. So we're quite pleased to have been able to open that during the pandemic. The national lockdown hit all of our recruitment plans. We were unable to do any face-to-face recruitment. We couldn't meet with parents particularly and young people to show them the space that we had. Indeed, the original space that we had ended up falling through due to COVID. And so a couple of weeks before we had to find somewhere new. So I'm really pleased with that. And there have been lots of companies I'll be honest, I'm mostly sort of in tune with other training providers, such as PI, Pursuing Individual Excellence, who have been able to develop and maintain redevelop programs and training for young people and maintain what they're doing. Something I'd like to add that I wouldn't say has been surprising necessarily or anything, but I'd say across the board in the digital sector is where I know more, and particularly Greater Manchester has been an incredible resilience amongst people. Everyone, it's been such a trying time, and I don't need to talk to anybody about the mental health impacts of the last 6 months and what's coming up. But the resilience across the board, I think, has been phenomenal. From schools getting to grips with everything, getting to grips with online sort of learning, which should help. As well as companies to adapt and revolve. So it's made me a bit proud to be an adopted Greater Mancunian, I'd say.
Raf, it's Emma. I was just thinking about have you seen any difference in skills that you've had to start teaching and training in the creative and digital industry? So you teach and train different skills that young people will need to go into the workforce. What I'm saying is, have you had to change anything due to working virtually or COVID, or are the skills the same?
No, I think the sort of technical skills that we're delivering are very much the same, because we wanted to keep that. But absolutely, in terms of delivering virtually, I think that there's been, in terms of teaching staff, and it's been great, as I mentioned, that schools have embraced, or had to embrace online sort of ways of working anyway. But in terms of working with schools, doing virtual teacher CPD sessions, whether that's with calls, we've created some online content that teachers can do in their own time, because of course, time's limited at the best. Was always limited for teachers, let alone now we're trying to catch up with catch students up. So yes, we've had to think about how we can deliver that and get schools to deliver that. And yes, with the young people, indeed. So actually, there's that thing about working from home, about being a self-starter, about motivation, and that's a challenge. It's something we're coming to grips with as we go, to be honest. We've only just really started back up our training in the new academic year, and we'll see how that goes. And certainly within our agency, we're teaching work from home skills. We're getting the young people to work from home already, only a few weeks in, whereas actually we probably wouldn't have, but given the circumstances, given what the future holds, given what will be a changing workforce, I don't see us going back to where we were. People will be working from home a lot more in the future, regardless of when we come out of this. So those sorts of things have absolutely moved to the top of our list, and introducing the various technologies that you can keep people on board with, such as the use of Teams or Google Hangouts or Discord and Trello and things like that, different project management tools, so that you can keep engaged with people even if they're not there, and that they're working and keeping things moving, whilst facing the same challenges that we all have working from home, which are comforts and other distractions. But so that's something we are working on. I expect that to evolve over the course of the year, Emma, in terms of what that looks like, whether it becomes a distinct package or how we embed that into everything we do. But yeah, it's been interesting and different.
Just one final thing on that. So I'm assuming that really in creative and digital, I've seen a lot of people sort of setting up on their own and working from themselves, because you can work from anywhere. You can be a digital nomad and you can work from Thailand but take on jobs in Manchester, or the other way around. So what about entrepreneurship and having those skills? I know in your academy that's something that you're thinking about as well.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is a big part of what we do, and it is something that we're trying to do. A big part of entrepreneurship, is going to be around communication. You can have the ideas and you can teach people to develop with creative thinking, or they might naturally have a flair for business. But a big thing is around communication, and of course, if you're distant, that becomes harder. I think it's become harder for most of us. I mean, I was used to online meetings before, but certainly not as many as I've done now, and presentations. And it is different, trying to forge that connection with people. And again, it's something that's going to need to evolve, I'll be honest. It's not something I've got a ready-made answer for right now. What we're really fortunate about is, going back to the fact we've got the agency, so we are able to develop stuff a lot quicker than we would, more quickly than we would if we would just do the virtual work with schools and young people, because we can trial and error on a day-to-day basis. Most of them are in most days, so we can trial different approaches and techniques as we go. We've also got, thankfully, we've got a team of 13 freelance industry experts that work with us, that I manage, and they all bring different skills to it. So they've helped to develop our online content as experts, and they're all undergoing this transformation as well. So they are consultants and trainers and marketing experts. So we're able to draw on their skills as we're evolving, and we'll tweak it as we go. But it is absolutely an area we're looking at. But like I say, it's something that I'd say watch this space on, in terms of what that can look like for young people.
Fabulous. So it sounds very exciting. So very similar to what Emma was asking in terms of skills, have you seen any kind of trends lately in terms of roles that are playing a big part in the digital sector? Have you seen any that are on the rise, or have you seen any that are that aren't so kind of hot at the minute and are on the decrease? Is there any kind of trends that you're seeing at the minute?
I think it's a bit early to see. Excuse me, to see some real trends. I think, we're looking about a year to see what the real impact is. I think one of the things there is central government messaging support for residents and businesses is changing and changeable fairly regularly, it seems. So it's quite difficult to see what's going to come. There's always been a shortfall of skilled people coming into digital roles, particularly in sort of the coding and development side of things. And as far as I can see, that is still there. So I think if you are good at coding, and this goes back to the point that Emma was just making about you can actually work from anywhere. If you've got a laptop with the right software, you can code a website and send it back to somebody. So that, as far as I can see, is fairly static. Those roles are still there. But I think it will depend on the wider health of the economy, as we talked about earlier. It depends on how other sectors evolve, how they can survive or just maintain, and then what clients that brings to the digital sector. I think we'll see new things popping up, as you always do in these sorts of areas. But again, I just think it's a little bit early at the minute. I think people have been able to withstand the last 6 months on the basis of or a lot of people have in our sector at least, on the basis of what government support there has been, and the fact that we're very small and agile means overheads are very low a lot of the time, which means you can keep things going. Just about, but then it's seeing what the next six to 9 months gives. Sorry, I feel like I'm hedging a lot of my answers by going, we'll see what the next 6 to 9 months bring. But unfortunately, it's the reality of the situation as it stands. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I definitely say watch this space then, the digital sector. Let's see how it progresses throughout the year. And I suppose you're in a really good position actually for the next question, is because you work both with schools and also other businesses as well. So in your opinion, do you think that businesses are in a position to support schools and colleges at the minute? And what kind of offers do you think are the best kind of offers that businesses can kind of give to schools at the minute? What's your opinion?
Personally, I think businesses are in a position. I think most people I think want to help schools. I think generally there's an instinct where people would want to help schools. I actually think if we work creatively, try and come up with creative solutions for businesses, you could potentially turn this to our advantage, because everyone's going digital. Because lots of businesses are. I know obviously there are certain, retail and hospitality are what they are generally, but even there, staff meetings, people are working digitally, and because schools have had to embrace digital and online learning, I think actually there are ways to make it easier for businesses to work with schools, because it's not necessarily taking half a day out of your time to travel into a school now with restrictions on visitors. It could be the case of, oh, you need to do an hour. Well, I just slot it in as a meeting from wherever I am. And as Emma says, if you work in different places. So I actually think now that I know schools don't have lots of flexibility in terms of time, and there are even more constraints on the timetable now because of trying to catch up the learning for young people. But with the use of, say, Google Classroom or some brilliant apps on the market, Sholby, Seesaw, online classes via Zoom, actually beaming people into the classroom, whether it's for live encounters, is actually going to be fairly straightforward. You can get briefs via email. It can still be meaningful. I think it's looking at the term meaningful as far as things like Gatsby go, and how you can do that. And actually, I was talking with a school yesterday about the idea of using pre-recorded sessions. So that makes it even more easy for businesses, and they can then have teachers embed them across every subject area, whether if it's a generic one or a specific one, but they're teaching classes at different times. So they're not even having to get a few classes together at once, because you can only get a presenter in once. And thinking of different ways that you can do that, and actually you could embed stuff into the curriculum, I think potentially easier than we could before, because of that matching up of technology. So I think the challenge is more acute in terms of the demands on everybody. But I think if we can be creative and use what we do have to our hand, which is a new expertise within schools, in terms of how they're delivering learning and being able to deliver learning in the event that there might be a lockdown and stuff, we'll use that to our advantage when we are in the classroom, and to beam people in. So I think it's about being creative, having a little thinking differently, but I don't think it will be thinking differently for long, because it's becoming the norm anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think you've really kind of echoed really a lot of stuff there, what enterprise coordinators are currently having that kind of conversation with careers leaders. So it's really good that businesses are also, and providers are thinking in that same way as well. And then my final question for you, Rav, is if you were a brand new careers leader in a school, never done it before, what would be your kind of top tips for kind of building a successful business network for the school that you're now careers leader for?
First thing I'd say is try not to be overwhelmed by it, because it could be quite an overwhelming if you're brand new to the whole area. First thing I would do is look for other people that are doing it. It's the first thing I do when I'm doing anything. Has somebody already done it, and just find the bits that you like that will work for your school. If look at the other local secondary schools nearby. See what they're doing. Have a look at the careers on their website. You'll get a flavour for what they're doing. Contact those careers leaders, because again, you might have shared interests, and actually, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. The work is being done. It's just finding what fits for you. So yeah, and that's locally, but actually all up and down the country. You can find the bits that you like in your school, and also, you guys speak to GMCA, but the work that you guys are doing via the CEC funding with the Enterprise Advisor Network, with Bridge GM over the last few years, with GMAX now. The network is insanely good, and I'm thankful. I'm pleased to be part of that as an enterprise advisor. The stuff's out there. It's just look at it methodically. Speak to you guys, get an enterprise coordinator, and if you take it step by step, it will come together. And finally, don't worry if something doesn't work out the first time. Just tweak it or try something new. It's not always going to work. Again, just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work for you. But try it, tweak it, and it will only improve, and it will only get better. So yeah, that would be where I'd start.
Thank you, Rav. I think just before we finish, it might just be worth, in case there's any careers leaders that are listening that aren't aware of the programme that you're currently offering, where can they find out more information about that?
If you go to www.digitaladvantage.org.uk, you will find a bit of an overview. We have put information on there. It is slightly changeable now, because we've been redeveloping our programme, and as I mentioned earlier, so you'll get a flavour for who we are and what we do, but our delivery is slightly different. So there's a contact form on there. If you just complete that, just put a few words in, just want to learn a bit more about it, that will come directly through to me, and then we can pick the conversation up. What I would say is what you see on there actually sounds fairly inflexible compared to what we can do now because of how we've adapted and changed. So, you know, if it says it's a 5-day program, don't worry, you don't need to find 5 full days out of the curriculum, which is what you would have had to do before. Actually, we want to support schools in these circumstances, and we know that that's a nightmare at the best of times logistically. But we can and have found different solutions, and we're trialling them and working on them at the moment, and they'll be getting better as the year goes on. So yeah, please do get in touch.
It's perfect. Thank you very much, Rav, and Emma as well. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Rav, I found that really, really interesting, really useful.
Oh, good.
But I wonder whether, because I'm not a particularly techie digital person, and I wonder whether there's careers leaders out there that are the same as me, and they don't understand a lot of the jobs and roles. You know, you talk about coding and whatnot. To me, I'm like, well, I'm actually a little bit scared of it.
Secret, I don't know a lot about it. I do operations.
But it could be something that really, you know, flicks a switch in a young person, couldn't it? I mean, they'll get it, they'll understand it, even if I don't. So just giving them the opportunity is fantastic.
Absolutely, and you know, I think the thing with this is you'd hope the careers leaders will go to the IT departments, because the IT departments, I guess it depends on how old the staff are, but they won't necessarily know all of the current roles or upcoming roles, depending on how long they've been in education. But they'll certainly get the principles of what we're talking about, you know, without doubt, because they'll at least be up to speed with their own tech at home and different things like that. So it will marry up for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're doing bits of CPD, but that's more about managing digital projects within the school at the moment. We could potentially look to do CPD around sort of more specific stuff, but it's going to cost you.
Well, yeah,
that's the problem, right? I think it's something we could do. I mean, we do have, like I say, we've got those 13 freelancers, and they are, you know, we've got Ezra in-house, who's my director, who's our tech guy. And so he's a videographer and photographer. We've got professional photographers. We've got a professional podcaster, Vic. We've got storytellers, journalists, radio presenters, public speakers, communication specialists, just general tech advocates, and we've got a real broad range of social media marketing experts, Ruby. We've got a real range. So those guys have developed with Ezra our online content. So, you know, all of the delivery that students are getting is industry standard, albeit through pre-recorded film. And then a trainer will be attached to school and giving them feedback on the work. So we're wanting to maintain that. So we have the network, I think, I think potentially a nice delivery style now, where we're doing stuff, like I say, to make it flexible for school, this video-led content with activities or worksheets. Now, that's less so for the staff, the more how-to guides at the moment, or some things to do. As teachers are developing, it seems to be going down well. We trialled it with a few primaries at the back end of last year, because we managed to maintain one of our contracts. And we've been developing it over the summer and this last half term. We're starting to deliver in the next couple of weeks, and after the week after, not week after, straight after half term, the week after that, thankfully. But we're starting to deliver to SEND, mainstream, and the schools and colleges, all within the space of 3 or 4 weeks, which I'm slightly terrified about, but we'll figure it out. So yeah, so there will be something there, and I think that we'll learn a lot from that. But if there was a case of talking to careers leaders around digital, specifically around digital and tech, or actually a wider conversation that you have, and then there was some CPD work to be done in different areas, and one of those was digital and tech, I'm sure we could get something together. Just depends on what that needs to look like for you, really, is, and what the brief is as to how we could do it, what it would cost, and all that. And
I can see Emma's brain ticking.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking, because you say go to the IT department, but it might be that somebody who teaches IT might not have worked in IT. Maybe they have, but it may have been a few years ago. So the closer anyone is to the sort of the actual industry, the better, really. The more they're going to know what jobs are really available.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all your people have they come from industry then?
They're in industry.
They're in industry.
Yeah, they're freelancers, or they've got their own micro businesses, and but they also volunteer with young people. There are also people that share an interest in working and developing young people. So they all work for us as well as their other clients. But they work for us. They work for us at vastly reduced rates. So obviously we're not commercial, but they do it because they also share our sort of passion and interest in working with young people, as well as that. So they just share their skills with us, and we like to say, we pay them an amount, and they do their work for us. But and that way that is how we are able to maintain constant, up-to-date industry experts, because they're always working in it. Again, it'd be the same issue as with teachers. If we took them out and employed them, and they just work for us, we'd potentially end up quite insular ourselves. Yeah. Maybe not as much as schools, because I think schools, that's not a criticism of schools, but they're a very specific type of environment, aren't they? But that's where having them as freelancers is great.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford to keep them full time.
Yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of the information that are put on GMAX about the labour market, because creative and digital is one of the growth sectors, and it's just massive, and it's not going to get any smaller, and it's not just, it's almost like it's not just its own sector. Like the word sector just seems a little bit old-fashioned now. It's creative and digital is in everything. Yes. It is in hospitality. Yeah. With table service, somebody's going to come over to you, take your order on an iPad. Absolutely. What software are they using?
Absolutely. I think we have started to a degree referring to the digital economy. That cuts across because it does cut across every. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, look, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, if you wanted something building or making, that's one thing. Managing a resource. If you just wanted some contacts or to speak to people in the first instance, if you were just doing a bit of research that you were putting up stuff, let me know. I think a good person. Do you know Naomi Timperley?
Oh, she's an EA, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
She's an EA.
I think in Sale. She lives in Trafford, I think around there. She's on our board, and she's a big advocate for us. She's delivered training for us in the past before becoming a board member, and she is easily the most LinkedIn person I've ever met in any sort of area in my life. She knows everyone.
Yeah.
So, she'd be a good. What she's really good at is just saying, "Oh, well, you need this person, you need that person," and doing stuff. So she's on that one. So I'd happily, I mean, you might know her obviously anyway, but if you wanted sort of the intro via us in this respect, I'd have no problem giving her a bell and just saying, look, Emma's going to email you. Can you?
Yeah, that would be perfect, because on GMAX we've got the different growth sectors and then some example jobs. I just want to make sure that they're right. Even if those example jobs are changing every 3 months, it doesn't matter. I just want it up to date and relevant. And then essentially what I want is, a little video of somebody who actually does that job on each job profile.
Send, looking at what you've got already, send us a link to what you've got, or we can tell you whether it's fairly relevant, you know what I mean, like that. And then when it's a case of linking into specific people, that might be where we bring Naomi in, because if we say, look, do you know someone in Colding who'd be willing to be filmed and talk about, you know, and then I think that would be a good place to bring her in. So yeah. Have a look. Just send us a link over to where the page that you're talking about and where you've got stuff up. And you can do that regularly as well. Don't, you know, if you just think every 3 months you send it out, don't bother about checking. Just send me an email and say, look, have a look at this. And if I'm not sure, I mean, there's a good chance I'll just pass it to somebody else. But if I'm not sure, I'll link you with the right people. That's no problem. But I'll be happy to do stuff like that because we work so closely with you.
Okay.
You know, and Sophie.
Yeah, we've always got that card to play, Rav.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting.
See that as well.
See, it was worth you coming now.
Brilliant.
I'm gonna have to dash. I've got another meeting now. But thank you so much, Rav. That was ace. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'll put the link in the chat. Okay, I can email it if you want as well.
No, that's okay. I'll just make sure I get it before we close the window. That's all. I've got it, so that's good.
Perfect. Thanks as well. Thanks for helping.
No worries at all.
Thank you. Bye.